Hey everybody, I'm Rogers Healy, and welcome back to Rogers That, a podcast about selling without selling out. And today, it's an honor. It's also a shocker because you have two guys that live on their cell phones that are working hands-free. I've got one of my best friends, one of my heroes in business, and somebody who epitomizes what it's like to be a salesperson without selling out. My brother from another bald mother, Mr. Dustin Gutkowski. Dustin, thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
You look surprised when I said my brother. This actually isn't a podcast. This is the part where I tell you that we actually are related.
Maury's coming out?
Yeah.
That's
Maury.
awesome.
Yeah, Dustin just dated himself. Maury Povich was a talk show host in the 90s.
Was it 90s?
In the 80s. And anyway, so we're back to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Dustin is somebody that I connected with a few years back through social media. And like a lot of busy people, you kind of just would forget about him and drown it out. And then he just kind of kept popping up. And I learned to really appreciate and respect his brand. And over the course of time, we became friends. We became friends online, and then that friendship turned into something in person. And we have a mutual respect for each other. But what I love about Dustin, among other things, that he's authentic, he's a grinder, and he has taken a very traditional business of roofing, residential and commercial roofing, and he's turned it upside down. Not literally, because he wouldn't be sitting here today as a success, but he's turned the business upside down, and he has disrupted. And to me, that's what is exciting about this podcast, is hearing about people's stories. So, Dustin, thanks for coming today, and maybe tell us a little bit about yourself before we dig into the questions that are going to probably make you cry.
Fun fact, didn't you you actually blocked me on social media once because you got tired of seeing it?
I did.
Yeah.
And more questions like that, he'll be blocked again.
So Dustin, originally from outside of Austin, and moved to Dallas.
Oh, let's get detailed. What hospital room were you born in?
Brackenridge Hospital. I was actually originally from my mother, and then by way of Austin. So,
wow, what a seriously weird situation.
It's a weird situation.
Yeah.
So originally from moved to Dallas, married, 2 kids, and one on the way.
Now, you married 2 kids, or you're married with 2 kids?
It's actually frowned upon to marry 2 kids, but I'm married with 2 kids.
Okay, I was going to say, because this just took a turn.
It could get weird. It could go from Maury to Chris Hansen in a heartbeat.
Yeah. So back to the business side of things, Dustin. When you agreed to do this, initially you said you just responded with your Venmo name, which was bizarre. And then I realized, I was like, okay, you're in the business of making money. But, when you first heard about this podcast, knowing that, you and I have this kind of quirky relationship that people wouldn't say like we're friends, but, we both work our faces off. But, so Dustin, you've been a disruptor, obviously, since an early age, which, led you to being an entrepreneur, and you've been able to go and disrupt a very traditional business, the roofing industry, and you've become an incredible salesperson where I think, like most salespeople, entrepreneurs, leaders, you sell yourself. But, what does that look like to you? How have you been able to be a great salesperson all while, being authentic and true to yourself?
To what you said, being authentic to who you are. I think being the best probably attribute, stat, whatever you want to keep of being a great salesperson is just being authentic to who you are, right? People can see through the bullshit, the BS. They can, when you're not being who you are, I feel like it just people feed off that and they can read it. So for me, it's always just staying grounded and honestly having conversations one day about who I was, like who was I really and who I wanted to be, and just not negotiating with myself, right? It's tough because there's things that come up that can draw you off sides or maybe do something that's not, in your standards. And so you have to be grounded in, hey, if I do that, that's not who I am.
How early on did that happen where you kind of had the chance to maybe go down the road that wasn't the best fit for you ethically? Did that happen pretty quick where you were challenged?
It happened pretty quick. So I came from a broken home, super broken home, from since I can remember. So since I was a little kid, and you have these memories of, like, I can remember one of my first childhood memories is not getting a Christmas present, which is probably a terrible memory. But we grew up in a trailer park. We grew up in just the bad part of town. And so, we didn't have running water at times, electricity, we didn't have food. So, hey, you're like ethically pushed, like your morals are pushed because, to use an example, if you go to the grocery store and you're hungry, is it okay to steal? Because you have no money to eat, but you're hungry as a child, like, right? Those push with morals. So at a young age, I was pushed with those and I was homeless at 14. So, I slept on a park bench. So you're faced with these morals every day of like what's right or wrong. And it's like, I don't think it's right for a kid to go to bed hungry, but I also don't think it's right to steal. But what are you supposed to do? And so it's just something that I always felt like there's probably some gray area to right or wrong where you hold your morals at. And I've always kept it on treat everybody the way you would want to be treated with old cliche, but it's treating people the right way usually keeps your standards pretty high and your morals high. So
yeah. So what was your kind of story after going and getting out of school and becoming an adult? How did you get into the world of sales, and what did you do to climb to, deciding to start your own company?
I started in the fitness industry when I was like 18, and so I started at 24 Hour Fitness, and I worked at like Crunch Fitness, a few others. But
was it weird that you didn't work out
at all? Didn't work out.
Yeah.
Actually, that's how I got the job, was working out. But it was weird that
fitness is for everybody, even the ones that aren't fit.
Yeah. You would know all about that.
Yeah, no, for
sure. Don't you have a dojo that you don't use?
Well, it's not a dojo. It's more of like it's a sanctuary
for
weights that are always
hanging
clean.
out.
Yeah,
that's good. Got a job in the fitness industry, worked there for 15 years. And you had to sell yourself, right? Nobody wants to work out. Nobody does. Really, you go into the gym for what? You walk out with a receipt and the promise that you're going to get in shape. It's terrible. And I was in the fitness industry, worked my way up to like a president, vice president, had multiple stores, and I was making the most money in my life, and I was miserable.
Where were you?
At Crunch.
What city?
In Detroit, Michigan.
Wow.
So I was in the D.
Boomtown.
A different D, yeah. It's a great place, by the way. It's got a bad rap, but phenomenal place.
It's
one of my
actually
favorite places.
Great rap. Eminem is fantastic. I don't know if you've
Battle
heard the
raps,
movie
yeah.
8 Mile.
It's a different rap.
Yeah. Also, birthplace of Motown, which wasn't really necessarily rap music, but we'll talk
it's not
about
rap music.
Well, Motown, you could consider some of it rap, but it was really more.
Who would be considered rap in Motown?
Well, there was a guy. I don't know if you've heard of him. His name is Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
Rap. He.
Great freestyle artist.
He's known to freestyle. Back to you, Dustin. Detroit, Boomtown, Crunch fitness model. Continue. Receipts. Potato salads.
Yeah. I tried to be a battle rapper, but it didn't work out. It's tough.
Yeah.
Tough streets out there.
Spaghetti.
It was tough. And so was miserable, making the most money of my life. And I realized quickly that everybody was not the problem that I was. And I was trying to push my goals and dreams on other people. And it was their company, not mine. And I knew that I just had a awakening one day that I blamed all these owners and bosses, but realistically, I was the problem. And I think it was my owner there told me first day on the job, which I thought was horrible. I thought I was getting fired. He goes, "You're not going to last long here." And I thought, that's not a good way to start. I just moved my family across the country. But he said, because you have an entrepreneurial spirit and you want to do things. And so one day I just decided, I was like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go do my own thing. And so, as I was growing up as a kid, I thought the logical thing you want to be when you grow up is a roofer. So roofing was born.
Really?
No, not really, but it sounded good.
Okay, that's the first heartfelt roofing story of all time.
Yeah.
So roofing, really, like honestly, so not many people go from fitness to entrepreneurship and specializing in the roofing world. No. What was the story behind that? Because roofing is not, a glamorous job, but you've literally brought a brand to the world of roofing, so much so to where you have guys that are, literally social media famous that are roofers. What was the story behind that?
So funny story, which is probably one of the reasons we met. How I got into roofing was the owner in Michigan was worth a ton of money, and he was originally a roofer. And that's how he got
Michigan, like
the
state.
The state. He owns the state.
Damn,
it's crazy.
John, Michigan, for all y'all watching today.
His name is James. Actually, it's not far off.
James, Michigan.
He owned the Crunches, and he got a start in roofing.
Oh wow!
And he really probably mentored me in business. He showed me a lot. Saw his work ethic, how he was, and he got a start in roofing. Well, I saw all these guys in Texas just killing it in the roofing industry. And I was like, how is Bozo killing it in roofing, right? And it's like, that guy can do it. I can do it easy. So roofing sounds like the logical choice. When I told my wife, she's like, we'll talk about it. And I went to work that day and quit. So it wasn't much talking about it. I said, we're moving back home. We're going to do roofing. And so when I first moved to Dallas, I actually saw what you were doing, and it didn't have any idea who you were. I'd never been to Dallas before I moved here. I saw you do an interview, and you said you built your whole company off of people seeing your face. You're like, I put my face everywhere, social media. You're like, I was the first realtor on social media. And that stuck with me years later. So I did it in the fitness industry too, did a lot of stuff on social media. And so when I moved to Dallas doing the roofing, just took the same logical approach. And then that was kind of how I met you, which was even weirder. So funny story.
Yeah, I love that. But okay, so back to you and your story. You get success, you make money early on, and I think that, for me, I was a very innocent person. I was not an athlete growing up. I was not popular, didn't have a ton of friends, and I was very naive.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're thrown into a situation where you have notoriety, you make a little bit of money, people want to, see you potentially fail. That was such a shock to me. And then on top of that too, what I was exposed to, I'm 42 now, but I was 21 when I got into real estate, and the amount of opportunity I had to cut corners and to cheat and to make dirty money, it obviously never appealed to me, but that was such a weird thing. Do you remember what that was like when you started your company and you started seeing how maybe some people really are wired?
Yeah, it was probably the hardest thing was some of the people that are closest to you were usually the loudest ones that wanted you to fail. And then people you didn't even know. People you didn't even know were just cheering for you to lose.
What do we call those people?
Call them fans.
Or we call them haters.
We call them haters.
Right?
I like that. Just call them fans because they're paying attention to what you do. That's how the mindset shift.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things was, I think you power through anything as a leader, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and these people that literally want to see you fail, you keep doing your thing and you keep being yourself, and then all of a sudden they're the ones that actually start sending you business.
Yes.
And which is a weird dynamic, and it makes you so glad that you're not like them or raised like them, or you're going to raise your kids like them. But that was another eye-opening thing for me, like 3 years into the business, these people that were literally just brutal to me for no reason other than the fact that I was working and I was doing my own thing. And all of a sudden they'd call me and be like, hey, I want you to list my office space or my house. I'm like, what? They're like, and I was like, oh my God, it's because you don't have it in you.
Yeah.
Right? So what was that like for you when you knew that you kind of got to that next level as being a business owner and the people that were your now fans were converted to being a believer? What would that feel like?
It hasn't changed anything for me personally. As far as, it's still weird. Or like when someone leaves the company and they want to come back. That one's probably weird.
Do you let them back? Ooh,
I haven't let anyone back yet. I feel like when you leave, and unfortunately, I've caught a lot of flack for this.
Yeah.
But I say when you leave, you're dead to me. And I don't wish you harm.
You just wish they're dead.
It's to me.
That's harmful.
A little bit, but I don't want anything to do with you. You believed in my goal and vision enough to quit on me, and you quit on yourself. I just don't want anything to do with you. And so I'm very loyal, almost to a fault.
Same.
But I don't want people to leave my organization, something that I think for me, because I can hold myself accountable for wanting the best for them while they're here and going out of my way. So when they leave me, you're dead to me. And they're like, oh, well, that's not the appropriate way. Well, who's to tell me what's appropriate for that? It's tough.
It comes with time, man. It's hard. I think that being a business owner as well, it's hard not to take things personally when you pour into people and you care so much.
Yeah.
And then the thing that always shocks me is like the way people leave, and it's the ones that I don't really have a true friendship with that are the most respectful, and the ones that I pour into, it's like a text message or an email. I'm like,
or they don't even tell you anything.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, and again, it makes you cling to the real relationships and to people that actually want to see you win after you're already a relative success. So, okay, so back to your story. What was the way that you decided to go lead in roofing? Where, like, again, it's a total disrupting move, and you could go multiple ways, but to not be a complete sellout, you wanted to go and take kind of your brand into the world of roofing. I'm sure at the beginning that came with a little bit of pushback and people like me being like, who are these people hashtagging
realtors and everybody.
Literally, it's like I knew what you had for breakfast because it was up there and you would hashtag DFW realtors, and I was like, what does an omelet have to do with he's getting my it was smart. It was a really smart move. But what was that like, kind of your first round of getting a little bit of flack and staying true to your brand and to yourself?
So at first it was a lot of, like, the first 3 months, it was a lot of support, right? Because, you're a new business, so people support you. They're like, good luck. And then when you start maybe being a disruptor or having a little bit of success, they flip that switch, right? I just didn't pay attention to it, but I didn't pay attention to the good or bad. It's like, what your opinion of me is none of my business. And so I don't focus on it. I truly believe in what we're doing is that, we're relational. We're not transactional. And I really believe that the relationship to me is more important than the transaction. And, for realtors, which is a huge thing that we do, was I saw this like miss in where people were trying to sell a home or buy a home and the roofer was almost pinned against it. And it's like, why would you want to be against, like, what does it matter if you're with the buyer or seller? Why don't you just get the best service so you can help the buyers buy and the sellers sell? And so I just didn't pay attention to the outside noise, good or bad. And so I think it leaves a lot of that. Why would you pay attention to it? Because there could be 1,000 people cheering for you and you're only going to listen to one that's being negative, or the vice versa is there could be 1,000 people being against you and you're only going to listen to the one positive. So for me, it's like I block it all out. I have a select circle that I listen to of influence. You're one of those. And there's only a few people that I feel like, hey, this person has my best interest, I will listen to them, because if I'm being out of bounds, they're going to tell me, right? And I just don't get caught up in the other stuff.
No, it's good. There's a couple things that come to mind when you say that. The first is that you're a product of the 5 people you hang around with the most, right? And that's true,
Yeah.
no matter what people want to hear. And the second is, I think another thing about being successful, if you don't come from a background of being the best at anything, which I'm sure you were great at something along the way, I really wasn't. My dad told me early on that the higher up you get on the ladder, the easier it is to shoot you down. Right. And I think as you become more successful, this group of people that you surround yourself with, it becomes smaller and smaller. And then you feel lonely, or you're like, man, it's lonely. I think it's a lonely place.
It is. You isolate yourself, and it's
but it's
tough.
not, I mean, it wasn't intentional for me. It's
No,
just
it's
that
not.
as you start to get to these different phases of life, and you're just like, I want to be around people that make me better. And then you like have this group of friends that you still love, but it's like, they drain life from you. And you kind of get to this phase where you're just like, all right, I guess this is what it's supposed to be like to be a successful business owner, is that you just kind of, you do your own thing. But back to what you guys do and how you go and do it, what's the approach? Like, what's the company mantra at Results Roofing and all the other companies that you've offshot since launching your brand?
Impact over income, firmly what I believe, and I care about. Everybody we work for is like when we started Results. Well, what was the point of Results? Results was to get, this wasn't our pocketbooks. It was to get results for like us, our customers, our employees' families. That was the whole model for me, was when I make a decision, and now it's weighted more, is that it's not just me I'm affecting in my family. That's true, but it's you and your family, the customers and their family. There's a huge impact. And so for me, it was like, hey, as long as I'm making every decision on how I'm going to impact someone, then I'm not worried about the income. And so everything I do, that's what I base it on.
Yeah, but you're making money.
The money will come.
Yeah, but you're also helping other people make money.
That's it.
And so for you, like, maybe give us an example of how you lead by example, where there's people that are working for you that maybe don't come from anything, no one believed in them, and then you invested in them, and through that their life has completely changed financially, but more importantly just from a confidence and a humility standpoint.
Yeah, we have a guy on our team that it's a close background to what I had. Grew up, single mom, didn't grow up grew up in a trailer park. I think the most money he ever made in his life was 30, 40 grand. Didn't have a whole lot. Didn't have, I don't want to say he had leadership qualities, but just wasn't really taught a lot on the business standpoint. 2 years later, this guy's making over $200,000 a year. He's leading a team. More than likely, he'll lead our whole company probably the next couple of years.
Wow.
And watching him take people, so he almost quit on us 3 months in.
Sounds great.
Helped him out, yeah, and he just, because he couldn't make it financially, but we helped him out with some things, and now he's got people on his team that he's doing the same thing that he went through, which to me is the ultimate gift. Is if you impact someone, that's great, but when you teach someone through impacting them how to impact others, that's where it just becomes like a complete legacy piece. And watching that is impacting an individual that's now impacting other individuals the way you impacted them. That was the ultimate goal for me, and it's kind of crazy to see.
Okay, well, let's talk about being a leader. And obviously, the premise of this whole podcast is all people that are roofers, that are musicians, that are entertainers, they're in the financial world, but the common thread is that everybody, hopefully myself included, has stayed true to themselves, right? So what kind of challenges do you face on a daily or consistent basis where like, all right, here we go again, but I have to be true to myself, knowing that for me, as sadistic as it sounds, I look forward to those opportunities to go and prove to myself that I know what I'm made of,
Yeah.
And I think that that's, a gift that some of us possess, is just resiliency and grit. It's exhausting sometimes,
Yep.
but, for you, like, what are some challenges that you faced and how have you pushed through it, all while remaining Dustin, the great, family man that loves people, even though, you got some challenges to face?
From the early age, obviously all the stuff I went through, it keeps me grateful for what I have. I'm always grateful for everything I have, and I used to not always be like that. I always played the victim about what you had, what they had. It was their fault. I didn't have this. Why was I born into this? And it actually took me about 60 days to change this. I started waking up every day. When I first opened my eyes, I would just go, thank you for another day, because it was when I slept on a park bench when I was 14. And so when you go from sleeping on a park bench to a bed, it's like, you should be grateful for that, because not everybody has that opportunity. Right. And so, and then I just started having the mindset, everybody's going to have, problems and challenges, but you can either turn them into, everybody's going to have pain, but you can either turn them into a problem or you could turn them into production. And so I'm feeling this pain. Why don't I use that as a source of energy? Because what I realized was pain was the same as happiness. It's just the way you kind of your mind took it. It's the same as like when you're nervous or excited. Why is someone scared of heights and someone's not? It's the same feeling. It's just how your mind's processing it.
I'm actually scared of heights, and it actually is a different feeling. I want to just...
I'm definitely afraid of heights, and I own a roofing company.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, true.
And so, but what's the feeling is that one's excitement, one's being scared. It's how your brain processes it. And so that's what I went through. I think it's every day, every week is talking to yourself, understanding who you are. If you know who you are, other people can't throw you off sides. Other people can't take you off your game if you're true to who you are. But it sounds crazy. But talking to yourself about, hey, what do I really want? Like, and when you know what you really want, everything else that's thrown at you, it's just like, I love those. It's like navigating the price. We have price increases. Everything's going up because of inflation. So with shingles in the last 12 months, they've doubled. And so how do you navigate that? Well, the easy thing would be just pass it on to our team. Hey, sorry guys, we got to cut your pay. We got to do this. But for me, it's like, hey, let's go on offense and figure out how we push through this and get there. Because once again, I know where I want to get to. And I know the end game. So I begin with the end in mind. So everything else thrown at me, it's like, okay, that's fine. That's fine because that's the prize. That's what we're going after. And along that journey, I've learned that the process is the real prize. All this stuff that you go through is what you remember, makes you who you are, and it's the real prize.
Let's talk cliche questions.
Oh, here we go.
Well, they're cliche for a reason. It's because they have lasting impressions
Yes.
and they have, longevity. But let's start low level. The best advice you've ever received.
Best advice, do not hold me accountable for what other people have done to you.
Okay. And who gave you that advice?
A guy named Phil Howard. I didn't work for very long, but he gave me that advice because I blamed him for what other people did to me, and it caused me to leave the organization rather quickly. But it was actually one of the best advice I'd ever heard.
Okay. Worst advice you've ever received.
Business, don't take it personal. I was going to say that it's the worst advice you'll ever take. If you're in a business and you own a business, you run a business, take it personal.
All right.
100%.
Okay. And what's your biggest challenge? Like, what do you face knowing that it's something you work on a daily basis? What are you challenged with, like, just as a man, as a person, as a leader?
How to be the best father, husband, family, and business guy I can be. I've learned that it's not work-life balance, it's work-life integration. And so I bring my wife and kids are involved in everything I do. And it's made life so much easier because then you're not just when you try to be the bucket, I would say that I deal with, I don't know anyone else, is work, husband, father, right? That's my three buckets. And when you try to be one or the other, you just get burned on the other ones. But when you integrate them all and realize that me being a great father is being great at business, being a great husband is being a great father, being a great father, all that's together, it just makes life a lot easier. And so, but it's a challenge though, because you go to work for 12, 14, 16 hours a day, you miss your kids, you get home and some other challenge is thrown at you. It's like, do I take this right now and get away from my kids? It's that dealing with that. It's probably the hardest. That's the only part of business that actually bothers me. The other stuff's easy. It's that I struggle with.
So it sounds like balance.
But there is no such thing.
Well, there could be. I think that I think being intentional is really hard.
Yep.
And I think that I'll speak for me, but I think you and I probably have similar struggles where I think my biggest struggle in life is being present. And it's because when your mind never stops working, it's hard to be really in the moment. And I think that a cell phone and a watch and all these things that are connected to you make it a little bit more difficult to be fully present. And it's something that I literally, I'm terrible at it. As a new father, I'm still sitting there with my daughter on me and I'm on my phone worried about taking a selfie when I should literally be looking at my daughter. It's hard, So what about you? Do you face stuff like that?
That's my wife's biggest pet peeve of mine is that. But I was like that even before there was like cell phones though. I was always doing something else. And I think that's where you touched earlier, how entrepreneurs isolate themselves. I think it's because your brain doesn't stop spinning. And so you have to constantly be doing something. And that's probably the thing that you're so misunderstood. It's not that you don't care. It's not that you're not paying attention. It's that your brain literally can't shut off. I tried to shut it off and it doesn't work.
So to maintain your mindset of being a great salesperson, not being a sellout and being consistent, everyone has to check out somehow. So for you, what does that look like? We know that you're really into Disney, you're really into Star Wars, you're a big Lakers fan, you love your family. Like, what does that look like for you? I mean, I never really was a big fan of the word hobby. I think the word passion is a strong word. It's overused, but I think escape is a healthy term for people that are just really, really busy. So for you, what does an escape look like to make sure you stay in that path of being a great salesperson?
Hanging out with my kids. My two boys are my best friends, and I hang out with those like my escape. Probably once every 3 months we go to Disney, and it's just like I didn't get to do that as a kid, but taking them, it's a fun escape. And again, I buy a lot of sports memorabilia, and thanks to somebody, I just bought my first Elvis piece. But it's the same problem. It's like, oh, maybe if I start buying music and movie memorabilia, I'll stop buying sports. But now I just buy all three. So
sounds like you compartmentalize, and you have deeper issues that we're going to discuss.
Complete different. I went to get a couch and play
Roger's
back.
that the intervention.
Yeah, your brain can't stop. But it's hanging out with my two boys. Just that being with them makes everything okay, and it's how I stay grounded and focused.
You ready for a loaded question? Something that I struggle with.
Do I have a choice?
Yeah, I mean, no, you don't. You're in here. The door's locked. Will you ever be fully satisfied as a business owner?
No.
Isn't that crazy?
Never.
Dude, it's so crazy. Same.
Never.
Right? And I think that a business owner becomes lethal when they do it for a different reason.
Yeah.
You know, for the first 16 years into being a business owner, and the first like 13 or 14, it was all about making money and staying relevant and not pressing the panic button. And a couple years ago, it's just kind of all changed to where it's an obsession.
Yeah.
Right. And everyone's like, what's the end goal? It's like, I have
no idea.
I don't have an end goal.
No.
I don't want to sell the company.
It becomes your hobby.
Yeah. What the hell would I do if I sold my company?
I'd go crazy.
What would I do? Like I would be sleeping on a park bench because I would literally just go crazy and probably get in trouble. But like, at what point will you actually be like, all right, like I've done something. I've impacted people.
I don't think that I try to tell myself the other day, we had a really great meeting with a couple of the new up and coming people that started at Results. We called the Top Gun cliche because of the movie, right? It was great. And I felt like an idiot because they were all young and they're like, Top Gun. I'm like, totally missed my mark. But
you're obviously Goose. I totally understand.
That's not true. Anyways, I told them, after the meeting, they all reached out to me and were just explaining how impactful it was. But to me, I just thought it was a normal meeting, right? But
isn't that crazy? Like the stuff, it's weird. Like you do it long enough and the compounding effect hits in and you're like, man, this is so second nature to me. But what you just did could literally change the entire trajectory of someone's entire life. All because you started a roofing company. All because of a roofing company.
It took 3 hours out of my day to speak to 6 people that, are on a path of. One kid was an hour. He almost argumentative, like, I don't have a why. I don't know why I do this. And then by the end of it was, you've changed me. I never realized that was my why. And so it's so impactful. But to me, it's like, I don't have that. I don't think I've done anything. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say like 0.02 is what I've done. And so there is no, I would be satisfied. And I think that's probably the hardest thing. I've tried to sell myself the other day, like, you know what, I'm going to sell the company and I would retire. And I'm like, yeah, right. There's absolutely zero. I can't do that. And that's what people don't understand. It's like, what are you going to do? I can't think of that.
Same.
That bothers me.
Same. And you're a grower, not a shower. And I think that,
I told you that in confidence.
Well, let me see. What's a better way to say that? I think in the world of business, everyone has their gifts. And I think yours is like, you're a builder, right? You love to go and build people. And I think that that's what comes with, struggle being a business person as well. For me, I think one of my hardest things is scaling, right? Is that I realize that so much of the success of our companies revolves around, at least I thought revolved around me physically being present, me physically being here or whatever. But I've had to learn how to delegate and then hire people that were smarter than me, more talented than me, etc. So for you, what kind of challenges do you face like that, where you have to realize that you can't be a part of everything?
Yeah, of everything. That to me is the hardest challenge, because I want to be involved in everything, not because I don't trust people or to that nature, if you will. I just want my hands in it, and I want to be a part of it because I do. I mean, but then what I told myself is, don't be a hypocrite, because one of the things I fundamentally believe is I don't build businesses, I build people, and the people build the business. And so I can't say that's who I am, but then not let them go do it. And so it's trusting them that if I was truly a leader like I say I am, and I was teaching them how to fish and not just catching the fish for them, then they would be able to do it to a great ability. So if they're not doing it to my standard, then it's my fault, not theirs. And I think that's the biggest thing I learned, is that when I first opened the company, somebody left, I got kind of pissed at them, right?
Yeah.
But I blamed them. But now it's like, is there anything I could have done differently to help them stay? And sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes the answer truly was them. But I can say part of the biggest growth I've had is after everybody's left or something's went wrong, I've analyzed what I could have did better as a leader. And there's always been 3 to 5 things I could have done better. I think that's helped me grow the company to a pace that I'd never imagined because of that. Because I'm saying humble, like I could have been better in those situations.
So like right now, what's something you could do better?
I think what that meeting we had the other day, one of the things I noticed was we've hit kind of a stagnant on salespeople, if you will. And one of the things I felt,
will.
If you will,
I will.
will you?
I
Yeah,
will.
and Mr. Mark. No offense, but it always manages. We'd hire 5, lose 3 or 5, right? And it was making an impact. And so it was having that meeting was like, I need to be more involved with not their sales and their day to day, but maybe managing their life and helping them see that maybe where they're at right now. And so I challenged myself with it. And that was part of the meetings that I've had is like, get the more one-on-ones, get those more elite meetings, if you will, and have that to impact them that way. I will. Yeah, I will for sure.
If you will, I will.
Okay. Together?
I will.
Yeah. I want to porcupine you on a question though.
Oh, please.
Welcome
you said, to Dustin that.
Yeah. So this is going to be Dustin that. I want to ask the question.
And be a sellout.
Hey, this is not how you sell out. This is how you sell. You turn around.
Porcupine me, please.
Yes.
I will.
You said that you don't do it for the money anymore.
Yeah.
Then why?
I mean, I do. I mean, obviously, I want to make money.
Yeah, but that's.
I think that as you get older and as you mature, you kind of the stuff that you wanted to speed through when you first started your career, you miss it, right? And it's like if I knew what I knew now back then, it would have been a lot easier.
Yeah.
But for me, it's literally if you become a master of something and you can go and get back to the basics, it's a different kind of reward. And I think, again, that's part of what we both do a great job of is that I like helping mold people.
Yeah.
And I like having people that are impactful and that are, naive. And I think through that, you have a better chance of leading them well versus changing somebody, And I think that that's what's hard about salespeople is that it's such a vulnerable audience and group of people that you can have leadership over to where they can go one of 2 ways. And if you can help keep them in the path of humility and humor and being themselves, that's what removes them from being a total sellout. And in the business of roofing, real estate, clothes, whatever you're selling, once people go and dip their toes in the waters of being just a punk, they're toast.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, one of the reasons I was single till I met Abby is that my style was to fix people and to save them. But with this, the money's great, but going and seeing the people that are influenced by simple life choices it's a mission, and I think that it's hard to go put it into words because it means so much to people like you and me, but to go and see the lives that are literally changed because you started a roofing company, I started a real estate company, and knowing that it's way more than about roofing and real estate, where most business owners never, ever taste that.
Yeah.
And, I have to make money. Literally, I have to make money because I have to pay bills.
Well, without the money, you can't really truly impact other people as well. There's a lot that goes behind that.
Yeah, but when you build a monster, and the machine, sometimes parts fall off, and you're like, okay, got to get a new wheel, got to go and get new headlights, got to go and do whatever it is. It reminds you that you're great at what you're doing. And I think that's what a true salesman is someone who, a great salesperson is someone who can lead salespeople, but if they need to get back out there and do it, they can't. And to bring this into kind of a music analogy, which I know we both love music, most people don't know this, but in an orchestra, the person that's up there with the sticks just going crazy, it's an orchestrator, right? But what most people don't know about an orchestrator is that if the celloist or the drummer or the guitarist or whoever's in the orchestra was to fall off the stage, that person can step in and fill their role. That's an orchestrator, but I think that's what a real leader is that ironically, they're kind of the unsung hero, ironically speaking, but they could crush those people if they wanted to. They could be first chair at this. They could be XYZ, but they prefer to go and watch everyone else be the best version of themselves, where they're leading kind of quietly. And I think that's what being a great salesperson is as well, is knowing your role, but learning how to do it to scale.
And championships are won with role players, to win an analogy.
Yeah.
And you look at, I look at the greatest, I love basketball, Jordan, Kobe, is they won rings with role players, right? And so many people think they're looking for that next superstar, even at work as leaders, like that next high performer, right? That next top producer. But usually those top producers have that entrepreneurial mindset, and they're probably going to do their own thing. And for me, I don't get caught up in that. If somebody comes in my company for 2 years and does it the right way and leads the right way, and I impacted them to go open their own business, I'm actually okay with that as long as they lead the right way. But to me too, is like, I could do this all on my own and have a successful roofing company, but what would it really be? Me and 3 to 5 guys if I wanted the top level people. But you have to be able to know your role and understand that there might be somebody that's 70% of what you could do, but how important is that to your company's success? If you had 100 people operating at 70% of you, where would you be?
7,000%.
Would it?
7 million.
Better than your 100%, right?
7 billion.
Would it be billion?
Yeah. No,
I think
get
we're horrible.
But again, I think that's the obsession. Is I think that whether you have 10 people working for you or 10,000 people working for you, there's always that one person that I think might need you, and more importantly, you need them.
Yep.
And I think that's what wakes people like you and me up, which again is the challenge of being present with our wives, with our children, with our friends, with anybody, because when you have it going at this fast speed, it's so hard to be like, let me completely stop sleeping.
Yeah,
I hate sleeping.
I can't, yeah.
I hate it. I go to sleep and then I'm like, oh wait, and then I'm on Instagram like, oh my God, this is where the cast of Cheers is today. I'm like, oh my God. It's like, it's hard, but I think but I think that's what, again, being a salesperson is staying true to that. And I found too that by being an entrepreneur, the people that I thought I looked up to in the world of sales that, became golfers, right? Or they took these trips on I'm like, I don't get that. Like, how do you, who takes a vacation on a Tuesday when you own it's like they lost their craft, and I think that's what being a salesperson is as well. And not being a sellout is making sure you can always be the orchestrator. You could always step in and play that instrument if you need to, but realizing that it might be better for that person to be the best guitar player, the best drummer, but you be the best leader.
Exactly.
So what instrument do you play?
None. 0. What about you?
A lot.
Prove it.
Well,
what do you play?
Bass.
Are you sure? Yeah.
Okay. So the people that are watching this today, it's a wide audience of people, and it's people that maybe, they don't believe in themselves, or maybe they're turning that corner and they're becoming a successful salesperson. What's your advice to them, and as simple or as complex as you want to make it?
What's my advice to them? If you really want to get to where you want to be, you'll never get there unless you believe in yourself. As the higher up you go, you have the less people cheering, and you're gonna have people actually rooting against you. And you can't expect other people to support your dreams and goals. It's not theirs, right? And so it's yours. And so if you don't believe in it, then how are you ever going to get other people to believe in it? And so no matter what, is always believe in yourself and what you're doing. That's the only way you'll ever get to where you want to be. I'm Dustin Gutkowski, and that's how you sell without selling out. Roger's that.